everyone, and thank you for tuning in to Community Updates. I'm your host, Michelle White, and we're glad you're here. We thank all of the 10,000 viewers and listeners that tune in from all around the country. Thank you for your support. I really thank you and appreciate that. This evening we have Dr. Portia Lockett, who's going to be speaking to us about grief recovery and how to navigate some of the challenges when you have lost a loved one and how to work your way through some of that. She's going to be sharing, she's a phenomenal speaker. Dr. Dr. Portia Lockett is a speaker extraordinaire and a grief recovery and emotional wellness specialist. She's a chaplain, a director of spiritual care at DMC, and she touches her audience with humor, instruction, and authentic side she has an authentic side that is infectious, coping with tragedy, trauma, grief, balancing relationships, managing work-life balance, and setting goals. She's the CEO of Azel Bene Lockett Foundation, and she's the creator of the Healing Card Deck for the Grieving. And so she's going to be talking to us. So thank you so much for coming this evening.
It's my pleasure, Michelle.
Yes. And it's been a minute since I've seen you, but It's always my pleasure to see you.
Likewise.
Yes, I can remember even when my mother passed away at DMC, and you were there to provide some grief recovery and assistance for us at a moment that we desperately needed it. And again, thank you for that.
Amen.
Yes. So before we get started, I'm going to touch with community updates. We like to touch on a few things, but there's so much going on right now in our country. We send out our prayers to the those dealing with Syria and Turkey and the disaster there. Just in all the lives lost there, as well as the Michigan State University students who. Ariel Anderson, Brian Frazier, and Alexandria Werner, who passed away, and then 5 students that are still in critical condition. So our prayers and our thoughts go out to all of the families that are dealing with so much tragedy right now in our country, and it's just it's sad. It's just really sad. But even before we get into talking about some of the grief recovery, earlier today I heard on the news, because generally we give out a lot of information for educational pieces or just other community updates is designed to give you information in whatever community you live in, to give you great information to assist you, to help you. That's what we're here to do. So earlier today I heard that there's going to be 3,800 people being laid off from Ford Motor Company due to the electrical vehicles that are being made. They're going to be making more electrical vehicles, and so 3,800 people are being laid off. Yes, and that is, I can't tell you enough, listeners and viewers, you need to get your training. We have too many people that are great mechanics, but you need to change that over and get trained in electrical vehicle training. There are many schools in your area that have, training in electrical vehicles. So get the training, because that is the wave of the future. Just like at one point we were still riding horse and buggies, and then that was totally gone. The motor vehicles that we drive right now, that's going to be totally gone in some years. Not right away, but it's a process. And that process is already underway. I've already seen the plans for the freeways for the electrical vehicles that are coming, and some of the other plans. They had just the city of Detroit alone did a survey to see how many people will look forward to driving, and will they drive instead of having taxis and buses, there'll be electrical cars with no person driving them that will drive us around, and they wanted to do a survey to see how people felt about that. So it is here. It's not even coming. It's here. Many people are already driving electrical vehicles. Have you tried one?
I have been in one, but I have not driven one as of yet.
Me too. I've been in one, but I have not driven one as of yet. But
It's a
I
little
hear
scary.
you're great.
Yeah, yes, it's a little scary. It's a little scary
Well,
because
I
it's
think
change. You know,
it's
when
changed.
anything happens that's kind of like brand new, there is a little fear. You know, because of the unknown, that experience that has yet to happen. And so I'm sure once I have an opportunity to drive one, I'll be just fine.
Yes. And one of the big concerns that people have is being able to find a station to charge up at. But there,
Absolutely.
even here in this building, there, did you notice the charging stations?
Yes, I did.
Yeah,
Yes, I did.
they're
Yeah.
now they're not everywhere yet, but they're out there much more than what they used to be. And I think they have 4 or 5 of them outside of this building alone. So, just a piece of information, get your training in electrical vehicles if that is, in particularly if you are one that is already working in that field, in any area of automotive technology, whether you're a mechanic or anything in that area, you want to get your training in that area. And there are plenty of training programs. Wayne County Community College has one, but many schools, wherever you live, there's training for electrical vehicle technology.
Yes.
So, Dr. Lockett, tell me now, when people think of grief and working through grief, what is the common denominator?
I think when people first hear the word grief, they automatically assume that someone has lost someone, or a loved one of theirs has transitioned, someone who has received their wings. But there's so many other levels of grief. You just talked about one in particular, with individuals losing their jobs, their lifestyles, the uncertainty of where that money is going to be coming from, in order to pay their bills and to be able to take care of their families. So with that being said, individuals are having a different train of thought. And so they're a little nervous, a little concerned about what's my next. We all probably went through some sort of grieving mechanism when we were experiencing, when COVID-19 first came on the scene. We are living in unprecedented times. We heard that phrase every day on the news. We're living in unprecedented times. This is something that has never been seen before, and this is what we need to be doing. And then the rules kept changing every day.
Every day.
Every day something was changing. You could only get it if you had a cough, or now it's a sneeze. Now
And
it's
take this, take
running nose.
that.
Everybody
Buy
had a
some
remedy.
soup, get some peaches.
Absolutely. And so, all those different, layers of grief, and then you think about the children that couldn't go to school. They couldn't,
For 2 years.
For 2 years. Some students, even 2.5 years, right?
Yes.
They couldn't have that normalcy of in the education of being able to go into the classroom. Now, there are already some children that were already doing homeschooling, and those kids were probably fine. But just to be able to shut down the schools, period, and then to be able to maneuver in a household where you have your parents and then the grandparents and then the children, all different age groups, being at home, trying to learn, trying to work from home. So everything just shifted, period. And I would go to say that we were grieving as a nation,
Yes.
as a country, as a world, because of the things that we were typically able to do on a regular basis without even a blink of an eye. Guess what? We weren't able to do those things anymore. But in the midst of all that, we were losing loved ones.
I was going to say, I lost my father in 2020, and it was just one of the hardest things was not being able to bury your loved ones.
Yes.
In a fashion in which you would normally do that, or have people attend a service.
Right.
That was pretty much almost null and void. Few people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it took so long
It
to
took
be able to
so
put
long.
things together. And,
Yes.
at that time, they were not allowing individuals to even come into the hospitals. So you had to depend on a spokesperson or a patient advocate or the nurses or the doctors calling you, giving you updates, on your family members, because you couldn't go into the hospitals, let alone if that person had COVID. You couldn't go into the room unless you were an essential worker that was taking care of that person.
I have a friend that hopefully he's tuned in this evening. He had COVID. Both of his sons had COVID, and they couldn't see one another because they all had COVID in different areas of the hospital. And unfortunately, one of them did pass. Young man.
Yes.
And I know you had your son passed, and it's been a little bit of time been what,
It's 2 years.
3
It's 2 years
years.
in this past December, yes.
3 years this past December. And the name of your foundation is named after him. We're gonna talk
Yes,
about that even
yes.
some more, the Azel Benet
Benet
Lockett Foundation.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. But let me ask you this as we're talking about grieving, because we want to help so many people here while we're here this evening. There are a lot of people that are grieving. Technically, even divorce is a form of grieving.
Absolutely.
So that's even grief right
Mhm.
there.
Mhm.
But is there a length of time for people to grieve, would you say?
No, and that's a misconception, because a lot of times people will say, you know what, you've been divorced now for 2 years. You lost your child 3 years ago, you lost your mother 4 years ago, and so we cannot force someone to put a length of time in place and say, this is what you have to do, this is not the norm. You should be over that right now. I can't believe this. I was just having a conversation with someone the other day, and they were saying to me, you know what, that person got divorced like 10 years ago, and they're still walking around moping and grieving, and they lost their mother, 5 years ago. It's like, move on already. It's like, you can't do that. There are so many people who are grieving alone because they're afraid to let other people know that they are still grieving.
Yeah.
And it's okay. Whatever it is that you're feeling, whatever it is that you need to be able to go through, I would say that, we have to allow ourselves time to be able to breathe through the process. And you know yourself better than anyone else, and so if you're still in that stage or that space, then you may want to reach out to someone to be able to get some support and get some help.
And do you have any recommendations for it? Well, the hospitals have grief counseling and support.
Well, we mostly, at most hospitals, we have chaplains,
Of
and
which
then-
you're a chaplain.
Yes, I am a chaplain with the Detroit Medical Center. And so when we get called to rooms where the person is maybe just say in transition, they haven't completely passed away as of yet, so we'll go and we'll be with the family and to support. And, we have to make sure that we're not, pushing an agenda, because everyone that comes into a hospital setting may not be one that practices any sort of religion. We want to make sure that they know that, whatever it is that you do, we want to make sure that we accommodate you. So at my hospital, we have relationships with individuals who may be of the Islamic faith. They may be a Jehovah's Witness. Someone may be,
Atheist.
Absolutely. And so whatever space they're in, we just put ourselves in that moment in that time to be able to support them. And then when the person does transition, of course, we're still there to be able to let them know that you're not alone. Whatever it is that we can do to help you, again, move through this process. And sometimes people have never lost a loved one, and so the first thing they want to do is that, I don't even know what to do. And so what we try to do is make sure that, we give them a variety of funeral homes that are in that particular area. If someone has an autopsy, we make sure that, we want to make sure we bring in a doctor to explain the process, of it, because things have changed, over the years. If we need to get in contact with their spiritual leader, of some additional family members, we're there just to support at that time.
I can't even imagine losing a child. That has got to be just extra hard to deal with. And what can people do to help maneuver through the grief journey? You said see some
Yes.
people.
Yeah, well, meaning how can I support others that are
Yes.
grieving?
How
Okay.
can you support others?
Being present, I think, is the number one thing. A lot of times we think we have to say something. We're trying to figure out those right words to be able to say. And sometimes just being present, saying nothing, is just okay. Because a lot of times people will come out and just say things that really don't make sense, like, you're still young, you can have another child. You've already got 5, so thank God for the 5 that you have.
Right. They say
it's
things that
people
really
that are just like,
seriously, did you really say that?
did I hear you just say what you just said?
Right.
They just could get
They
real
don't know
creative.
what
They
to
don't know
say.
what to say. So my thing is,
Say nothing.
say nothing.
Just be there.
Just be present. And so what do most people need? They need resources, because a lot of people don't have insurance, and so what you can do is you can donate. You're gonna be able to help them. I mean, everybody needs, financial support,
And a lot of
when
people are doing the GoFundMe
the GoFundMes,
pages.
right? Yeah. And so you want to be there just to support those individuals. Maybe they just need money at that time. When my son passed, just an outpour, of financial support, came to me. Because it was COVID, people really couldn't come by. So and visit and just sit in the house like we would normally do. And so people would just come by randomly and just drop off packages. I was just teasing with one of my friends the other day because she went to Costco and she brought toilet paper and paper towel and paper goods.
Those things were needed.
And they were needed. And I told her, I said, I think I just used that last roll of toilet paper. So to me, that was a blessing that I didn't have to go and buy toilet
Yeah, and
paper.
people don't always think about those things.
Yeah.
But when you have people coming by, or just so you don't have to go out and buy it yourself.
Absolutely. And
That
I
is
wash your
important.
dishes, and so those paper goods, So things that and so when people say, well, I don't even know what to do, it's just like, think about, you put yourself in that person's place if you can. What would you need? You need support. You need finances. You need someone to maybe run some errands for you that you can't run. If you have children and children are still in school, you maybe want to have those individuals to be able to volunteer and take those children to and from school, help them with their homework. If you have an elderly parent, you want someone to be able to go check on mom and dad for you because you're in the middle of doing the planning. And even during the COVID season when we were experiencing that, and people couldn't even make arrangements. When my sister passed, oldest sister, she passed away from COVID, and she passed away in March.
My condolences
Yeah,
for you.
thank you. And we couldn't even put anything final until September. And so just that whole wait period, it took a long time to be able to transition through that of not knowing when we were going to have some finality to it.
I forgot to mention one other young person that passed away yesterday. A little boy in the Wayne Middle School was hit by a school bus in middle school. So it's just really tragic that too many of our young people
Gone too soon.
gone too soon. But before I even get with that, I want to say, for those of you who might want to call in, we want you to be sure and call in.
I think we have a call now.
We've got a caller. Wonderful. Caller, are you there? Are you there, caller? I can't hear you. Can you hear me, caller? Well, maybe they'll call back in or something. But I was just going to give the phone number. Please call in at 313-355-6018. Again, that's 313-355-6018. And again, we're on all the social media platforms: Instagram, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube. So tune in on any one of those platforms. Are you there, caller? Caller? Okay, maybe they'll call back. Again, the number's 313-355-6018. We've got Dr. Portia Lockett here this evening, who is sharing. She's a grief recovery specialist, and she is sharing with us some strategies and techniques and different things that she has learned and done from her job, as well as having gone through some personal grief. Her son was, how did Azell?
It was murder.
He was murdered.
Yeah.
Did
And
they
we
ever
never-
find?
No. And that's another thing. And I'm glad you brought that question up.
Okay.
Because a lot of times people will ask the question, did they ever find who did it? And I would just encourage you not to ask that question. Because regardless of whether they found that person or not, it's not going to bring my son back.
Exactly.
So that's another one of those
But
questions.
does that help?
Does it help when
It
people
might
ask?
help. I think it helps when people that I've spoken to.
When you
It
find
helps when they find
yeah.
the person.
Yeah, it does.
Mhm.
It helps you to get through. It doesn't bring your child
Doesn't
back,
bring your child back.
but it does make you feel like, okay, yes, that person is going to be served. That person is going to pay. But to ask that question, just in general conversation, did they ever find that person who did it? Do you know why? And so they want to dig deep into all those questions. It's just
And
like,
that just brings it back
sometimes
up.
it just, and everybody's different. But I just find that most people don't want to have to relive it again. They don't want to have to tell that story again over and over again. But then on the other hand, so the story that I choose to tell is the story of how he lived.
Well, tell us about how Azel lived.
Hazel was just an amazing person. He was a very affectionate. I remember our last encounter that we had. He and his girlfriend came over right before Thanksgiving, during the Thanksgiving season, I should say, right before he transitioned, and he told me that they were going to be parents, and so we were just really, really excited. And he was always one to be able to hug and just tell me how much he loved me and wanted to make sure that I was okay. And he was the person that if he came in town, would see. I would say at least 15 people in a weekend.
Yeah.
Just stopping by just to say, hey,
Yeah.
how you doing? I love you, or whatever. He was just a lovable person. He
Yes.
was a go-getter. He was an entrepreneur. He was about making things happen.
Mhm.
He wasn't sitting around, making things happen or trying to wait for things to happen. He was trying to make things happen. And he was just a lovable child, lovable young man.
Mhm.
And so I choose to celebrate the 28 years that I have had him
Yes.
as opposed to focusing on the time that I won't.
Mhm.
One of the most beautiful things is that he and his girlfriend were expecting,
Mhm.
and now I have a 19-month-old granddaughter
Oh,
who
that's
has her
wonderful.
father's spirit, and she's
Oh.
just wonderful. So that just brings me joy,
Our
knowing that I still have a
grandchildren, the
part.
best things
They
in the
are
whole
the
world.
best. She's the best. Yeah, I think we got somebody that's still trying to
Do
call.
we have
in
a
here.
caller? Our caller, are you there? Hello? Again, if you want to call in, it's 313-355-6018. We can't hear you, caller, if you're there. Are you there? Okay, maybe they'll call back. So, is the word loss appropriate to say when you're referring to?
That's a
Awesome.
common thing. People will say, "I'm so sorry for your loss," and some people can relate to it,
Mm-hmm.
and some people can't.
Mm-hmm.
So it's your prerogative, in terms of your wording. I'm here for you. I heard about what happened, and I want you to know that I'm here for you. I'm here to support you in whatever way you can, or you need me to, or how I choose to. We talked a little bit about some of the things that we can do, and just being there just to be present. Check in on the person, give them those phone calls. Sometimes people don't want to talk at the very beginning. Text that person. You may not get a response back, but they'll see it eventually. Sending a card, sending an email. A lot of times people will send flowers. Whatever it is that you feel that you may help someone else. So another verbiage could be transition. They made their transition. They're no longer with us. I love the word wings.
Receive your wings.
Receive the wings. I did a lot with my parents' transition. My mother received her wings. My father received his wings. My son received his wings, because I truly believe that they are still there. They're spirits.
They are.
And so they have the wings, and so they're there. And I need to be able to connect, with them in the spirit realm. I could just imagine for me that they're here, somewhere, in the spirit realm, just flying around with their angelic wings.
I feel them. I felt, especially initially, I felt my mother quite a bit.
Yes.
And even people would call me, even the day she passed away, two people called, and one person said, I just saw your mother, and she told me she's going to be able to really watch over me now, and
Yes.
so forth. And they didn't even know she had passed away. And they had this dream, or this, seeing her.
Yes.
And that she was going to be able to watch over them. And then someone else called and said, I saw your mother, and she was in pink, and they laid out the colors and things that we did end up having for her during her service, her homegoing service. But, and then thereafter, I would feel my mother's presence so much.
Yes.
And then even when my father passed during COVID in 2020, I felt my mother, showing him around heaven.
Wow.
Yeah, I could see the
Yeah.
vision of that. She was
Yes.
showing him around.
Yeah. So I want to be able to connect in the spirit as well. I had a cousin who passed away, and I remember when I got home, she lived in Chicago, and I got home one evening. I was laying in my bed, and I could literally feel her presence, someone sitting, and I knew it was her, sitting on the side of my bed. And I just truly believe she was coming to me, letting me know that I'm okay, and make sure that my son and my husband are okay. So I was getting an assignment. When my father passed, he he had this aroma that he would create in the bathroom.
Okay.
And so he would create a smell with Iris Spring, aftershave, Dial soap, Murray's pomade, because he had really curly hair. He would wear it back kind of slick,
Okay.
wavy. And then there was another piece that he used, but and he would just create this hot smell. And so even when he passed away, sometimes when I would go into the bathroom, I could just feel it. I could smell it, and I just knew that he was there. My mother has come to me in dreams. My son has connected with me in dreams. He came and just told me to make sure that his daughter knew who he was. And this was even before we had the reveal, of what the gender of was the baby. And he even told me, he says, don't try to figure out who did this. Live your life. And he gave me messages for both of his brothers and his father.
And see,
so,
everyone doesn't have that spiritual
Yeah.
connection.
Yeah.
And I get that. I've had a spiritual connection for some years now.
Yes.
Even, well, that I'm not going to go into all that, but
Yeah.
but everyone doesn't have that.
Right.
But it's real. We are really spirits living in this body,
Yeah, that's right.
and we have souls.
Yeah.
We're spirit, soul, and body.
Yes, absolutely.
For real, for real.
Yeah. And you know what? And I think another thing is just being there to be, to listen. Because that person who is grieving may just need someone to talk to. So this past December, I went to Florida to celebrate my birthday, but it was also the 2-year anniversary of my son transitioning, and my spiritual daughter and I went together. And a year ago, she lost her mom, and just this past November, I think it was November or December, her father, made his transition as well. And so with us just being able to be there together,
Yes.
it was good.
Oh, that's
Just to love on each other.
Yes, that's wonderful. So, you're a chaplain as well as a grief recovery specialist. And so how do you support those that are grieving? You mentioned it a little bit when you're in the hospital and some of the things that you do with them. Are there any other things? And then you've got these wonderful materials that you're going to share with us.
Yes. So a lot of times when, in a hospital setting, when a family has a child, let's just say was born, stillborn, and they want to ask a lot of questions, why did God allow this to happen? We don't necessarily have the answers to that. We just don't know. So we try to provide them some reading materials and other resources and guide them to get into a grief support group where they're like-minded individuals would have experienced the same type of grief. A lot of times we try to create a situation where we can have pictures, dress the babies up, because we have different organizations.
So you brought a picture.
Yeah, I brought my picture. Yeah, he's wonderful. Love that.
Oh,
So I look. He's the first thing
that's
I look at in the morning. He's the last thing that I look at night. That gives me
Yes.
peace.
This is wonderful.
That we're still making
I
that
don't know if
connection.
the audience can see this,
Yeah,
but it's wonderful.
thank you. Yeah, that was the thank you card
Yes.
that I created to send out. Because a lot of times, funeral homes will give you a stack of the white cards to say thank you, and you send them out. But I just wanted to do something different because Azale was different, and so God gave me some verbiage, and it was powerful. I had to look back and say, oh my God, God did that for me. God gave that to me, and He did.
Yeah.
But getting back to the hospital setting, creating the atmosphere of taking pictures, so that the parents can hold their loved one, and say their goodbyes. We've done balloon releases to individuals, with individuals that would be able to, have that last, goodbye. We've done, I would say, a circle of love, when the person is just before that person is transitioned. So you have a room of individuals standing around their loved ones saying, this is what I'm going to hold close and dear to my heart. I love you, Grandma. It's okay to go. Because sometimes that person is really waiting for everybody that they need to say goodbye to come, and then they'll make their transition.
My grandmother lived to be 103.
Yes. Wow.
And
What a
she
blessing.
waited, yes, I have my great grandmother lived to be 104. But my grandmother, she waited, she said, have my daughter come.
Yes.
And her daughter came, Her daughter did not get back on that plane good, and she transitioned. She
Yes.
was ready to go. She had lived a wonderful life, but she was ready.
Mhm.
She went peacefully,
Yes.
but she
It's
was ready.
beautiful.
She
She's
wanted to
beautiful.
see her last child. She saw us all the time, but she had a daughter that lived out of state, and she said to have her
Yes.
come.
Yes. And then on the flip side of that, sometimes there was not a good experience with that person who has made their transition. And there needs to be a space of forgiveness where, say, for example, there was a father who was not the father that he could have been or should have been. And so here's an opportunity for children and siblings or whoever to be in that circle to say, you weren't this, but I forgive you.
Yes.
And it's okay to go.
And the people kind of know when they're, sometimes they have the opportunity to kind of know when they're about to transition.
Yes.
I remember when my father, who was a very stern man, but a very good father, and but he called in people that he wanted to apologize to and say different things to prior to his transition,
Yeah. Yeah.
which was wonderful. Yeah, so it's different.
And unfortunately, sometimes people don't get a chance to say that goodbye.
Exactly.
And so you have to create that space again, getting into some type of support group or getting into therapy where you have the ability to be able to say your goodbyes to that individual, maybe writing a letter or just speaking out loud and just talking to that person. Just says, hey, I know we didn't have the best relationship, but I forgive you, because forgiveness is not about that other person. It's about you.
Exactly.
And when you begin to forgive yourself, then you can begin to move forward. It's not going to happen overnight,
I
but
share
it's a
with,
process.
with people that are going through divorce, forgive quicker.
Yes.
It takes, it took me 7 years to forgive. And I was in counseling.
Yeah.
And it was like a light went on that I was like, well, why do I need to forgive? They did something to me. And God said, you hurt me, the same hurt that you're feeling.
Yes.
You hurt me that same way. My heart hurts just like with things that you do, just like your heart is hurting. Because then during that process, I learned what a broken heart meant.
Yes.
I learned what that term meant. But it was like a light went on that, and the scripture says you have to forgive the people that you're looking at every day.
Absolutely.
So the
Absolutely.
forgiveness is for you. And it was, and I could feel my prayers kind of hitting a certain plateau, hitting the ceiling. But after that, the doors, the windows were open. And so forgiveness is for you. And I would encourage anyone to forgive, and to, whether it's someone you lost or someone that is still walking the planet.
Yeah.
And we need to be able to forgive quickly,
Absolutely.
as quick as we can.
Absolutely. I have a little exercise that I do when I do some of my training, and it's all about breathing. But I say, we're going to inhale, we're going to exhale. I'm going to forgive myself and everybody else so that I can move on.
Yeah.
And we repeat it. I'm going to inhale, I'm going to exhale, forgive myself and everybody else so that I can move on.
Yeah.
Because when you hold on to whatever that situation is or that hurt, it's really hard to move on. One of the things that I posted earlier today, and it says, if you never heal from what hurt you, you'll bleed on people who didn't cut you.
Exactly.
We always
Very
hear
true.
that verbiage of hurting people,
Hurt
people. And we don't want people to hurt.
No.
But that's what's going on in society right now. We have so many people who are hurting, and they go out and hurt other people.
I think that's what's happening with a lot of the people who are going around killing people.
Absolutely. They're
You know,
hurting.
there's a lot of mental instability, but they're hurting.
Yes.
And so what would you suggest? Do you have any suggestions for the students and those who are with the MSU students, or those who are just, I was crying yesterday
Yeah.
just watching the news
Yes.
and thinking about all of the families who have, and as a matter of fact, I know a gentleman, the Ariel Anderson was his great niece, was his great niece. And it's just sad. Do you have any suggestions for any of the people who might be listening that are,
Just send them good positive vibes. Pray for them, lift them up, hold them high in the light. For the students, I truly believe that all of them need to be in some type of support group, if it's a grief group or individual counseling, because everybody was different in a different space. There's not a cookie cutter solution to this, right? And so those individuals who were there, who actually saw it, that's trauma.
Yes.
And so when trauma is not dealt with, eventually it surfaces in every areas of our life. And when we're hurting, when we're going through things like this, it affects us spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically.
Yeah.
Encourage them to get into a space so they can decompress and express their feelings. And everybody's not going to move through the process the same way, because everybody has different relationships. Maybe it was someone's best friend, someone's cousin. So they're not going to grieve the same way with the person who said, I just went to school with that individual. We have a lot of wonderful counselors, across the country. I think more people are starting to get into mental health than ever before. A lot of the young students who tell me, I'm majoring in psychology, and I say, thank you, we need you, especially our young African American men.
Yes.
When they tell me that, I just say, give me a high five.
Yeah.
We need you. The world is waiting on you.
Yeah.
You've got customers, clients that are already waiting for you.
We're adding a mental health piece to the community updates.
Oh, awesome.
Yes, a young lady who's going to be coming on soon is a licensed therapist. And she's going to be, because there are a lot of people that don't have anyone to talk to.
Absolutely.
And so we're going to open up the phone lines to give you an opportunity to talk about some things.
Sure.
And then maybe, continue on with some other therapy if they so choose to.
Absolutely.
Because mental health is so important, and it's not being dealt with the way that it should be around the country.
Absolutely. A lot of people are just in denial. They see the signs, but I think we need to have an awakening. We need to be able to go into the churches and have our churches
Need to
taught.
have-
There's a
therapists.
course. Yeah, there's a course called mental first aid. Okay. And I know in Detroit area, there's Detroit Wayne Integrated Health Network that does the training mental health first aid. I think that's what it's called. But, because we have individuals who come to our churches, but we don't know how to deal with them. We have individuals that go into the hospitals. And if you're not a level 1 trauma hospital, then you may not have a staff that is accustomed to working with those mentally challenged individuals. When you go into the stores, when you go into the supermarkets, what are some things that we need to be able to look for? Because it's happening everywhere.
Everywhere.
I did a poem called Ricochet, and it basically talked about, the fact that, where's it going to hit next? Am I going to be able to dodge that bullet? Because it's happening in our schools, it's happening on the subway, it's happening in the malls, it's happening in the hospitals, it's happening in wherever you go, it's happening on the freeway. So where am I safe?
And we also want to send out our prayers to those 5 critically,
Absolutely.
those 5 students that are in critical condition
Yes,
as well.
absolutely.
I meant to say earlier that I'm so glad that the hospitals have chapels, because I know for me that was just very helpful, and I'm sure it is for many people. Whether you believe in God or not, I found that people that don't believe in God, when a situation arises, they are still looking for someone to call upon.
Absolutely.
Or to pray for them
Absolutely.
or something.
Yeah.
Or even just to have that place to sit and meditate.
Absolutely. And so now we've got some new lingo.
Okay.
It's called the Interfaith Reflection Centers.
Okay.
Because when you
it's
think of different faiths, so we
Yeah,
want to make sure that
interfaith.
everyone feels comfortable going into that space to worship, to pray, to meditate, whatever it is that they
Whatever
choose
they
to
do. Yes.
Absolutely.
Interfaith, what now?
Reflection centers or
Reflection
interfaith
centers.
meditation centers, or just the meditation rooms.
Okay.
Yeah, so they used to be labeled chaplains, and some hospitals still do, but a lot of the hospitals are starting to broaden their way of thinking.
Okay. And I strongly think that churches, as many that can, need to have a therapist on staff that they're paying in the church. Many of your larger churches do. I know Brightmoor Christian Church, where I attend, they have a licensed therapist on staff, and some of your larger churches do, but the smaller churches need them as well. And it's just something that's needed so that people can, even when I was sharing that I had some therapy myself many years ago, going through divorce. I was at Rosedale Park Baptist Church,
Mhm.
and they had therapy. The therapist was right there on staff, and that was a
Wow.
smaller church,
Mhm.
but they had therapists right there, and it was
Yes.
needed, and it was helpful, and that's where the light kind of went on,
Mhm.
um, to help move on in the process.
There's so many different ways that we can support individuals. Matter of fact, I just started going through a grief journey myself
Okay.
because I wanted to explore some other things. And so
Okay.
there is a local funeral home here in the Detroit area where they have created a healing center.
Mhm.
So once a week, you have an opportunity to go to this location, and they have yoga, and then they have ways to show you how to have breathing techniques. The next week, it may be if you have experienced losing a child at childbirth, as well as through trauma. Then the next week, it may be sound healing, and then art therapy. So there's so many different avenues that we can provide those individuals who are going through that grief journey, because again, it's not a cookie cutter, space.
Mhm.
There's no real destination that you're going to get to,
Right.
but we just have to make sure that we are in a position to provide support for individuals who are willing and desiring to go through the journey of healing.
Right. Well, that's wonderful. You want to share what funeral home that was?
Oh, sure, it was Lynch and Sons.
Lynch and
Lynch and
Sons. I've heard
Sons.
of them.
Mhm.
Yes.
In the Detroit area.
I've
Yeah.
sung it mostly.
Mhm.
Memory.
Yes.
I think I've sung there before as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. There's so many funeral homes that are in the Detroit area, who support. And and for me myself, I would say like the first week or so, I'm a very creative person,
Mhm.
and so God began to just to pour into me with poetry, and so it was really good for me to be able to release how I was feeling
Mhm.
poetically.
And
So-
tell us about some of the material that you brought
Mhm.
to
Okay.
share, and kind of hold
Absolutely.
it up in front of the
Okay.
camera there so
All
people
right.
can see your grief cards.
Okay, yes. So I have it's a deck of grief cards. They're soon to be released, and it's a deck
Healing
of cards.
cards.
They're healing cards, and each card says something different, and it's multicultural, so that everyone who decides to make a purchase feels very comfortable. So if you can just choose to do this by yourself as an individual, you can do it with a grief accountability partner, or you can do it with a group of people. So every week you can just choose a card if you want to. This one says back down memory lane. Pull out a picture or a card and videos and just watch. Let the tears flow, laugh out loud, and just go at your own pace. Another one just says ask for help. Allow others to be able to assist you with keeping track of the phone calls, the condolence cards, the flowers, memorial contributions. Another one says it's okay to say no. No, I don't feel like doing that right now, but thanks for thinking of me. No, not today. Maybe sometimes in the future. No, I'm not ready for that yet. But sometimes we put ourselves in that space where we feel like we have to say yes to everyone. Another one says, try not to lose your cool. We talked about this when people say, I know how you feel, because you don't.
You're right.
You can always get married again. Maybe I don't want to.
Mhm.
Okay? At least you have other children. Or you're still young, you can have another child. Or here's one, God doesn't make mistakes. So these are cards that I think will help a lot of people, who are going through their journey. This is going to be part of a set. There is a journal that goes along with it, an ink pen so that you can write along with it, and then also a grief journey candle. And so these are going to be
Different
released.
scents?
Yes, these are going to be released really, really soon on the website, and not all of the proceeds, but a portion of the proceeds will be going to the Azale Benet Lockett Foundation. And this is the foundation that I started to honor my son. And it's AZALBENNE LOCKETT Foundation FOUNDATION.org. And we're here to help you heal, offer you hope, and hold your heart. So if someone reaches out to us or calls us or goes to our website, and they may have experienced the loss of a loved one and they need resources, and so we are trying to put ourselves in a position to be able to bless them financially or guide them towards resources that where they'll be able to help. So in the Detroit area, we have the Wayne County, Wayne Detroit Wayne Integrated Health Network. There's a county network in Macomb as well as in Oakland. And in any area that you live in, there are resources that are out there so that if you call any of those numbers, there's someone that can do an over-the-phone assessment and get you to the right person to be able to help you through your grief journey. If you have insurance, it's great. If you don't, they still will help you.
So now, how do people tell us again how they can get the healing journal and the candle and the cards?
Okay, so right now, it's the process of being released.
Yes.
So the pre-orders are going to be coming up in about 30 days on my website, which is drportialockett.com. And so we're building out, we're rebranding, doing some rebranding right now. And
Okay.
so it'll be an opportunity for you to go and pre-order. And I'm just excited about the fact that they're going to be able to help so many people on their journey.
That's wonderful. So that's DRPORTIALOCKETT.com.
Yes, absolutely.
Wonderful.
Yes.
So these are some of the things that you did to help move you through the grief process.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
And you
Absolutely.
said poetry.
Yes.
And I see you have another book there as well.
Yes, this was a book that I participated in a couple of years ago, and people were just talking about their real stories about hope, faith, and triumph. It's called Delayed But Not Denied Part 2. So this is a collaboration with other women who have experienced some very traumatic experiences in their lives. So they just talk about how they got through, how they got
It's
over.
delayed
But not denied. Part 2. And this can actually be purchased
Yes, caller.
on Amazon.
Hello, caller. Hello, caller.
Hey, Lion Michelle.
Hello, how are you?
Hey, how you doing? And Dr. Portia Lockett.
Hi.
So nice to hear you.
Thank you. Who are we talking to?
You're talking to Lion Ronald Coleman.
Hi.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm blessed in you.
Yeah. Well, it's so nice to hear you addressing the grief concept because it is more than a concept. It is real because we've all experienced it one time in our life if we're an adult from losing one of our relatives. But right in through now, I think it's really important because of all of the things that are going on in this world these days. There's so many things that we can grieve about, and it's not always death. It could be, it's not death in our families or our friends. It may be grieving for the people over there, over in Europe,
Turkey and
in
Syria.
Ukraine. In
Mhm.
Ukraine,
Ukraine.
it could be grieving for the families that lost loved ones or had loved ones injured in the recent situation at Michigan State. So there's a lot of people out here that are grieving, and they really need some help to know how to handle it. It's so important, and so I really appreciate you being on there to give your suggestions and advice and give direction as to where people can reach out for further grief counseling.
Thank you so much, Lion Ron, for sharing that, and thank you for calling in. I am also a Lions Club member,
Yes.
and the Lions Club, the slogan is wherever there's a need, there's a lion.
Yes.
So we have people that are out in all the disaster areas. There's someone there to help or to give food. We collect money for disaster relief, and it's a wonderful organization to be a part of.
Yes. I know Brother Ron. He's amazing.
Oh, you know? Okay,
Yes. It's
wonderful.
sidetracked to all the wonderful work that he's been doing over the last few years. Yes.
Yes, well, we work together.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. Yes.
Thank you so much for calling, Lion Ron.
Okay, well, it's not about me. It's about the people out there that we can help. And Dr. Lockett is really, I'm really happy to hear that she's able to provide information to provide counseling and also to direct people to where they can get more counseling that they may need. So thank you very much.
Amen. You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
All righty.
Have a great evening.
Have a good night.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So again, if you want to call in, you can call us at 313-355-6018. And Dr. Lockett, before we wind down, we're down to the top of the, close to the top of the hour. Tell us more about the foundation and how we can support the foundation. The
Absolutely.
Azel Bene Lockett Foundation.
Yes. So if you go to our website, you can stay in contact with us. So you receive newsletters. We're going to be starting doing those upcoming. We just launched this in September, which would have been his 30th birthday. So
Okay.
we're brand new.
Okay.
But God is just so good. I mean, like every week we get people who are sowing seeds. So if you want to sow a seed into helping other families, you know, who are experiencing grief, who may need some additional support, you know, financially, they may just need it just to be able to bury their loved one. A lot of people don't have insurance these days. Unfortunately, it is what it is. You know, we're living in that state of mind right now. Or if you want to be a part of it and do some volunteer work with it, April the 1st, we're finalizing some things, but we're going to be doing something April 1st at Wayne County Community College. That's on a Saturday. And
Which
it's going to be in the
campus?
morning. It's going to be at
No,
the
that's
North
where I work.
the North Campus.
The
Yes.
Northwest Campus.
The Northwest Campus,
Oh, wonderful.
absolutely. And we're
Okay.
going to be doing a session called Permission to Grieve.
Okay.
Permission to Grieve. And so we're going to be having individuals give their testimonies, and we're also going to have some therapists and counselors right there on hand, as well as some vendors that will be there sharing information that will be able to help you to propel to the next level
And
in
this
your
is
grieving
on a
journey.
Saturday.
So
When is
Saturday,
this?
Saturday, April the 1st.
April the 1st. So you'll have something that I can repost to on
Absolutely.
my Facebook page and other
Yes.
social media.
Yes, yes.
And,
We're finalizing everything right now, but I
okay.
figured here's an opportunity for us to
Yes,
get it out
definitely.
there, get
And
the word out
feel
there.
free to call in and
Yes.
say, hey, I want your viewers to know about this.
Yes.
And please feel free to do that, because we've got
Absolutely.
plenty of people that would love to support and come out to Wayne County Community College District's Northwest Campus
Absolutely.
and support you on April the 1st.
Yes, absolutely.
Wonderful. So, what are, so tell me some more things about the foundation. Well, you just said you just got it launched.
Yes, in September.
Uh-huh.
And so, as I said before, if you go into our website, the Azel Bene Lockett Foundation, it gives you a little bit of background. Actually, there's a video that gives the story of how it actually came to be. A little bit more information about Azel, you know,
Yes.
and the life that he lived.
Wonderful.
And we just want people just to know that we're here to support. We're a place of resource, you know, where you can come and get additional information.
Is there a
There's
phone
a phone
number?
number. Yes, you can actually call the 1-800 number here, and I'll have it for you right here. I don't know it by heart, unfortunately. I'm still
Okay. It's okay, it's
doing
new.
this. Yeah, it's brand new. But yes, so if you call the 1-800 ABLE.
Able?
Able, yes, Able, the Azel Bene Lockett Foundation. You know, let me come back to that. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's
I
okay.
for whatever reason, I'm having a brain freeze right now. But
Okay.
let me leave you with this. As I said before, some of the things that I would do would be to do poetry.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is one of the poems that I wrote, you know, in the midst of my journey, and it's called "I Felt." I felt the love, and I still feel it. I felt each and every prayer. I felt your tears rolling with mine. I felt you trying to bear my pain. I felt the inner screams. I felt your love. I felt your love. I felt your hugs. I felt your kisses. I felt you not knowing what to say. I felt you. I felt your conversations of concern. I felt you lifting me up. I felt you carrying me. I felt you reminding me. I felt you. I felt you asking God why. I felt your energy. I felt you. I felt your love. I felt your strength. I felt your comfort. I felt you. But even in the midst of me failing you, the reality is I still feel the pain. But I choose to place peace over my pain.
I love that.
Yeah.
Beautiful poem. Do you have a book of poetry that'll be coming out?
Yes.
So
Eventually.
wonderful. Okay.
Eventually.
All right.
Eventually. Yes.
That
Yes,
is
yes, yes.
wonderful.
So,
Well, Dr. Portia Lockett is going to be on 9:10 a.m. this Friday with Charlene Mitchell in the morning. Sometime Friday morning, did you say
9
10
o'clock.
9 o'clock?
Mhm.
And then next week, we're going to have Leslie Love, who is one of our state representatives, and she's also a comedian. So she'll be coming here on next Wednesday. So be sure to tune in right here to WJZZ Cool TV Community Updates. And Dr. Lockett has that phone number for us right
Yes,
now.
absolutely. It's 844-922-5435. That's 844-922-5435.
So give her a call. The Azel Bene Lockett Foundation is also there. You can give some support and know that some of that support will even go to help other people.
Absolutely.
So we are here to help one another on this planet.
Yes.
So I hope that you would call in, that you would send some finances into the foundation. And again, we thank you so much for
It's been a
coming.
pleasure. Thank
Yes.
you so much.
Thank you.
Yes.
And that is, we got this. Thank you.
You gotta go lay down, girl. You gotta go lay down.